Have you ever prayed, meditated, or affirmed, yet still felt stuck, anxious, or unfulfilled? What if the life you've been seeking isn't something you need to chase? It's already inside you. In this video, you'll discover how thought, speech, and feeling shape your reality, how silence and recognition unlock divine presence, and how living in Christ consciousness activates abundance, peace, and wholeness. Stay tuned, because what you're about to learn can change how you think, speak, and feel. For every life begins in thought. Before a word is spoken, before action is taken, before any circumstance manifests, the seed exists in consciousness. Thought is the foundation, the blueprint from which reality unfolds. The mind, like fertile soil, receives seeds of belief, expectation, and perception. Whatever is sown repeatedly and with conviction grows. Fear, limitation, judgment, and doubt produce patterns that manifest in life as struggle, scarcity, and conflict. Conversely, thought aligned with spirit, with love, faith, and recognition of divine presence creates harmony, abundance, and peace. The creative power of thought is the invisible force that shapes your inner and outer world. Many people underestimate the influence of their thoughts. They believe thoughts are private, inconsequential, or powerless. Yet each sustained thought impresses the subconscious and influences perception, behavior, and experience. Fleeting or casual thoughts may have minimal impact, but repeated dominant patterns shape character, relationships, health, and circumstance. Thoughts of fear generate worry, stress, and limitation. Thoughts of judgment amplify resentment and separation. Thoughts of lack attract scarcity and conflict. On the other hand, thoughts of love, abundance, gratitude, and peace become molds for life, naturally manifesting as a reflection of inner alignment. Understanding this law is crucial. Your mind is not passive. It is the primary architect of reality. The first step in harnessing thought is awareness. Begin by observing the ongoing stream of mental activity. What recurring thoughts dominate your day? Are they rooted in fear, worry, limitation, or resentment? Are they judgments of self, others, or circumstance? Awareness is not judgment, it is recognition. By identifying the habitual patterns of thought, you illuminate the molds being used unconsciously. Once recognized, these patterns lose their automatic power, creating space for intentional thought. Without awareness, alignment is impossible. The mind must first be seen clearly to be reshaped. The second step is correction and replacement. Thoughts that contradict truth and identity must be replaced consciously with aligned statements. If fear arises, acknowledge it, but immediately declare, "I am peace and safety in God." If scarcity appears, affirm, "I am abundance flowing in every area of my life." If self-doubt emerges, replace it with, "I am strength, clarity, and life itself flowing through me." Correction is not self-condemnation. It is the gentle reorientation of consciousness toward truth. Each realignment impresses new patterns upon the subconscious, gradually replacing old molds with thoughts of faith, love, and recognition of God's presence. The third step is consistent repetition. Thought is creative when repeated with conviction. Occasional affirmations are insufficient. Like carving a groove in stone, repeated focus impresses the subconscious, making alignment the default state of consciousness. The more consistently you repeat aligned thoughts, the more automatic the patterns become. Over time, the mind naturally resists fear, limitation, and judgment, reflecting instead peace, abundance, and clarity. Repetition, combined with awareness and correction, transforms thought into a reliable tool for shaping life. Visualization strengthens the mold of thought. Close your eyes and imagine the reality you wish to embody. If affirming abundance, picture opportunities flowing easily, resources appearing effortlessly, and generosity circulating freely. If affirming health, envision vitality filling every cell, energy sustaining your body, and freedom of movement and thought. Visualization engages feeling alongside thought, impressing the subconscious more deeply. Feeling is the animating force, transforming recognition from intellectual acknowledgement into tangible inner reality. Identity is the anchor for thought. Identity precedes desire. Thoughts must reflect recognition of self as a divine expression. Thoughts that contradict identity, I am weak, I am unworthy, or I cannot, reinforce old molds of limitation. Align dominant thoughts with divine identity, I am strength, I am life, I am whole. When identity is established, first desires flow naturally, effortless and harmonious with spirit. Misaligned thought produces struggle. Aligned thought produces ease and manifestation. Practical exercises enhance mastery of thought. Monitor your inner dialogue throughout the day. Pause periodically to correct misaligned statements. Replace fear, doubt, or judgment with recognition of truth. Use affirmations in moments of quiet during commutes or before sleep. Even brief, consistent engagement reinforces alignment. Over time, thought shifts from reactive patterns of fear to proactive alignment with spirit, creating harmony, clarity, and abundance. Patience is essential. Transformation of thought is gradual. Old habits are deeply ingrained, and persistent repetition is required. Occasional lapses are normal. Each return to awareness, correction, and alignment strengthens the new mold. The law of consciousness is impartial. What is consistently impressed will manifest. Thought is the mold. Spirit is the substance. Together, they shape life. In summary, thought is the invisible architect of reality. Awareness illuminates habitual patterns. Correction redirects them toward truth. Repetition ingrains. The mold, visualization strengthens its impression, and identity anchors it in spirit. When thought is aligned with God, it becomes a powerful creative force. By mastering the mind, you master the mold of life, producing harmony, abundance, peace, and alignment with divine reality. The mind you carry is the field from which every experience grows, yet few understand how deeply the world conditions it. From childhood, society, culture, and education shape thought patterns that reinforce fear, limitation, and separation. These patterns create a default consciousness, teaching you to react, compare, and measure life through scarcity and judgment. Aligning with Christ consciousness is the process of breaking free from these inherited patterns and intentionally training the mind to perceive reality through the lens of divine truth. This alignment is not abstract or theoretical. It is practical, transformative, and foundational for living a life in harmony with spirit. Christ consciousness is a state of mind that operates from the recognition of unity, presence, and divine order. Jesus demonstrated this perfectly. He did not react in fear when storms arose. He did not judge others from separation, and he did not waver in the face of scarcity or conflict. His perception was anchored in God's reality, not the transient appearances of the world. Aligning your mind with Christ consciousness requires a similar awareness, the ability to see beyond appearances, recognize God's presence as the foundation of all, and operate from identity rather than circumstance. The mind aligned with spirit perceives wholeness where the world perceives lack, love where the world perceives separation, and peace where the world perceives chaos. The first step in this alignment is self-observation. Begin by monitoring your thoughts without judgment. Notice how often the mind reacts to appearances, fears, scarcity, or judges self and others. Identify recurring patterns of limitation. For instance, you may catch yourself thinking, I will never succeed, I am not enough, or life is unfair. These thoughts are not trivial. They are deeply ingrained molds, shaping your experience. Awareness of these patterns is the prerequisite for transformation. Without observation, the mind continues to operate automatically, reinforcing old paradigms. The second step is intentional correction. When you identify a thought that contradicts divine truth, gently replace it with alignment. For example, when fear arises, declare, I am peace flowing through me. I am protected and guided. When scarcity appears, affirm, I am abundance and life provides for me now. When judgment arises, state, I see unity, love, and wholeness in all things. Correction is not forced or anxious. It is deliberate and calm, an invitation for the subconscious to adopt new patterns. Repeatedly practicing this redirection strengthens the mind's ability to default to Christ consciousness. The third step is anchoring with feeling. Words alone are insufficient. The heart must be engaged. When affirming truth, allow a deep sense of reality to accompany the declaration. Feel the peace, abundance, or love as though it is already manifest. Emotion carries the vibration of truth, impressing the subconscious more effectively than intellect alone. For instance, when you declare "I am whole," imagine vitality and wellness flowing through every cell of your body. Feeling turns recognition into lived experience, transforming abstract thought into tangible reality. Visualization further reinforces alignment. Picture yourself responding to challenges from a place of calm, clarity, and faith. See yourself navigating difficult situations with wisdom rather than fear, abundance rather than lack, love rather than judgment. Visualization engages imagination, emotion, and intellect, simultaneously deepening the imprint of Christ consciousness on the subconscious. This mental rehearsal gradually rewires the mind, allowing automatic responses to flow from alignment rather than reactivity. Consistency is essential. Christ consciousness is not cultivated through occasional effort, but through persistent practice. Daily engagement in observation, correction, feeling, and visualization creates durable grooves in consciousness. The mind begins to recognize truth as the default, and to reject fear, judgment, and limitation naturally. Even brief periods of consistent alignment produce cumulative effects over time, reshaping perception, behavior, and ultimately external circumstances. A critical aspect of alignment is detachment from outcomes. The world's mind links thought to result, producing anxiety when expectations are unmet. Christ consciousness recognizes that appearances are not ultimate. They are temporary expressions of underlying truth. When aligned, the mind focuses on identity rather than external validation. You act from wholeness and abundance, not fear of loss or desire for gain. Detachment fosters inner peace, clarity, and creative freedom, allowing the subconscious to respond naturally to aligned thought rather than reactive patterns. Finally, grace and patience are necessary. Shifting the mind from world-conditioned thought to Christ consciousness is gradual. Old patterns may surface repeatedly. Each time they arise, return calmly to recognition, feeling, and affirmation. This process trains the subconscious, gradually establishing new default patterns of thought. Patience prevents frustration, and persistence guarantees transformation. Over time, the mind naturally perceives life through spirit, and outer circumstances begin to reflect inner alignment effortlessly. Aligning the mind with Christ consciousness is the foundation for spiritual transformation. It harmonizes thought, word, and feeling, creating a stable inner environment from which life flows naturally. As the mind adopts this state, fear diminishes, judgment dissolves, abundance manifests, and peace becomes the baseline experience. Life ceases to be a struggle against appearances and becomes a living reflection of divine reality. Through observation, correction, feeling, visualization, consistency, and patience, Christ consciousness becomes the natural orientation of the mind, guiding every thought, word, and action in alignment with God's presence. Renewing the mind is not merely an intellectual exercise, it is a spiritual discipline that transforms thought, speech, and feeling to align with divine truth. Life unfolds as a reflection of consciousness, and the quality of your inner patterns determines the quality of your outer experience. Without deliberate renewal, old habits of fear, limitation, and judgment dominate, shaping circumstances that reinforce struggle. Mind renewal replaces these patterns with the consciousness of Christ, allowing life to flow effortlessly from a foundation of peace, love, and abundance. This transformation is not temporary or superficial. It is deep, systemic, and enduring. The first step in mind renewal is recognition of existing thought patterns. Awareness of habitual thinking is critical because unexamined thoughts unconsciously dictate behavior and perception. Observe recurring thoughts that generate fear, doubt, or scarcity. Pay attention to judgments you make about yourself, others, or circumstances. Acknowledge the patterns without judgment. Simply recognizing that a thought exists allows the mind to begin disengaging from it. Awareness illuminates the molds of consciousness, exposing the structures that must be reshaped to align with spirit. The second step is deliberate replacement of misaligned thoughts. Once identified, old patterns must be replaced with affirmations of truth. For example, when fear arises, replace it with "I am," peace, and trust in God's presence. When scarcity appears, affirm "I am abundance," flowing freely into every area of my life. When self-doubt emerges, state, "I am strength, clarity, and divine wisdom." Replacement is not a forced denial, but a conscious choice to guide the mind toward patterns that reflect identity and spirit. The consistent use of corrective thought gradually reprograms subconscious grooves, establishing new default responses. Feeling is central to mind renewal. Words alone are insufficient. Emotion must resonate with truth. After affirming "I am peace," feel calm. Settle in the chest, flowing through thought, word, and body. After declaring abundance, feel the flow of supply and opportunity as tangible reality. Emotion strengthens thought by embedding it in subconscious perception. The mind integrates what is not only spoken but felt, creating internal consistency that naturally manifests externally. Feeling is the bridge that transforms recognition into lived experience. Visualization further reinforces the process. Imagine yourself navigating challenges from a state of peace, responding to scarcity with confidence, and interacting with others from love rather than judgment. Picture your life reflecting abundance, wholeness, and clarity. Visualization engages imagination, thought, and feeling simultaneously, creating a holistic impression that influences subconscious patterns. By repeatedly practicing these mental exercises, the mind internalizes Christ consciousness, producing automatic alignment in daily life. Consistency is the fourth principle. Mind renewal is not a single event but a continuous practice. Daily attention to thought, deliberate replacement, feeling, and visualization is required. Short, consistent practices throughout the day, morning affirmations, midday corrections, and evening reflection establish continuity. Gradually, Christ-centered thought patterns become habitual, automatically guiding perception, decision-making, and emotional response. Persistence builds a robust foundation of aligned consciousness. The fifth principle is detachment from results. The world-conditioned mind ties renewal to external evidence, creating frustration when appearances do not immediately reflect inner effort. True renewal occurs when thought, speech, and feeling are aligned independent of external outcomes. Appearances are temporary. Consciousness is permanent. By focusing on alignment rather than immediate manifestation, the mind achieves freedom from stress and impatience. Detachment allows the inner state to remain stable, reinforcing lasting transformation rather than short-term success. Another critical aspect is patience with the process. Deep-seated thought patterns take time to dissolve. Old habits may reappear, and the mind may resist change. Each return to awareness, correction, and alignment strengthens the subconscious impression of truth. Mind renewal is gradual, cumulative, and cumulative effort compounds over time. Patience prevents discouragement and allows consistent practice to produce lasting results. Every intentional step toward alignment contributes to the enduring transformation of consciousness. Mind renewal also strengthens congruence. Thought, word, and feeling become unified, producing consistent action. The mind aligned with Christ consciousness responds from peace, wisdom, and love, rather than fear, anxiety, or reactivity. Life becomes an expression of inner alignment. Relationships, work, and personal well-being begin to reflect the harmony established within. The inner state drives outward manifestation naturally and effortlessly, reinforcing the power of mind renewal. Ultimately, renewing the mind transforms life by shifting perception from separation to unity, fear to trust, scarcity to abundance, and confusion to clarity. Conscious attention to thought, deliberate correction, heartfelt feeling, visualization, consistency, detachment, and patience, establishes a Christ-centered consciousness that governs every aspect of life. Life no longer feels reactive or chaotic. It flows naturally from the truth of God's presence expressed through aligned thought, speech, and action. The mind renewed in Christ becomes the anchor for transformation, producing peace, abundance, and divine alignment in every circumstance. By cultivating awareness, alignment, and feeling, you allow life to reflect the eternal reality of spirit. Mind renewal is not a practice of striving, but a practice of recognition, returning continuously to identity in God, and allowing the outer world to manifest accordingly. Transformation is inevitable when the mind is shaped consciously, consistently, and with feeling for thought, aligned with spirit, is the blueprint of all creation. Life often feels heavy because the mind perceives itself as separate from God and from others. This sense of separation is the root of fear, judgment, and limitation. The world reinforces the belief that survival, success, and happiness depend on external circumstances. Fear arises when the mind imagines threats, or scarcity. Judgment arises when it compares and measures, and separation arises when it forgets unity. These patterns, repeated over years, become the default state of consciousness for most people, creating struggle that seems inescapable. Recognizing these patterns is the first step in transcending them. Fear is the mind's response to perceived danger. It may appear as anxiety about the future, worry over finances, or dread of personal failure. Fear convinces the mind that something essential is lacking, or that the self is in danger. Yet fear is not real. It is a projection of thought misaligned with spirit. Spirit sees wholeness, security, and abundance as already present. Fear only exists where awareness is absent, where recognition of divine presence has not been applied. Observing fear without resistance allows the mind to begin releasing it and opens space for truth to emerge. Judgment is another deeply ingrained pattern. It manifests as criticism of oneself or others, evaluation against standards, and the compulsion to assign blame. Judgment stems from the mind's desire to measure worth, control outcomes, or protect ego. Yet judgment reinforces separation, emphasizing differences and limitations rather than unity and wholeness. It clouds perception, preventing the mind from recognizing God's presence in all things. By observing judgment as it arises without identifying with it, one begins to dissolve its power and open the door to compassion, understanding, and alignment with spirit. Separation is the underlying illusion that fuels fear and judgment. The world conditions the mind to see life as composed of separate entities competing for survival or validation. In truth, spirit is one and all. Life is interconnected. Separation creates conflict, anxiety, and scarcity consciousness. Recognition of unity dissolves the illusion, allowing the mind to operate from a state of wholeness rather than lack. Every experience becomes an opportunity to practice seeing unity behind appearances, reinforcing alignment with divine law. The first step in recognizing these patterns is self-observation. Begin by noticing moments when fear dominates thought, when judgment influences perception, or when separation shapes behavior. Do not attempt to suppress or control these thoughts immediately. Simply observe. Awareness is the first act of liberation because what is seen loses unconscious power. Observe, note, and acknowledge the feelings and thoughts as they arise. This awareness illuminates the habitual grooves of consciousness and allows intentional alignment to replace automatic reactions. The second step is identification of triggers. Fear, judgment, and separation often appear in predictable circumstances. Financial uncertainty may trigger scarcity thinking. Conflict may trigger criticism or resentment. Solitude may trigger insecurity or self-doubt. By identifying these triggers, you can anticipate moments of misalignment and respond deliberately rather than reactively. Understanding the conditions under which old patterns arise empowers you to break them and replace them with recognition of divine truth. The third step is replacement with recognition. For each thought of fear, judgment, or separation, consciously redirect the mind toward truth. If fear arises, affirm, "I am protected, guided, and at peace in God. If judgment appears, declare, I see love, unity, and wholeness in all beings. If separation manifests, recognize God is present in me and all around me, all is one. Repetition of these corrective statements reinforces the mind's alignment, gradually replacing old patterns with the frequency of spirit. Feeling is integral to this process. Simply observing and replacing thoughts is insufficient. The mind must feel the truth to imprint it deeply. When replacing fear with peace, imagine the warmth of security and the lightness of trust flowing through the body. When replacing judgment with love, feel compassion, understanding, and connection. When replacing separation with unity, sense the presence of God in yourself, in others, and in every circumstance. Emotion transforms recognition from intellectual acknowledgement into embodied reality. Visualization further strengthens alignment. Picture scenarios that previously triggered fear, judgment, or separation, and see yourself responding from peace, love, and unity. Observe the effect on others and the environment. Visualization combined with feeling impresses the subconscious, deeply creating new default patterns. Over time, situations that once caused reaction become opportunities to practice Christ-centered perception naturally. Consistency is crucial. Fear, judgment, and separation are deeply ingrained. Repeated practice is required. Daily observation, identification, replacement, feeling, and visualization reinforce alignment with spirit. Each small act of conscious recognition weakens old patterns and strengthens the mind's ability to operate from wholeness. Persistence ensures that the mind gradually defaults to peace, compassion, and unity, rather than fear, criticism, or separation. Ultimately, recognizing fear, judgment, and separation is the first step in transforming consciousness. Awareness illuminates the patterns. Triggers provide opportunity for intervention, and replacement with recognition establishes alignment. Feeling and visualization embed the truth deeply, while consistency strengthens new grooves of thought. Through this process, the mind shifts from reactive patterns to Christ-centered consciousness, preparing the individual for inner peace, abundance, and harmonious living. Recognition dissolves illusions and reveals life as it has always been, whole, complete, and unified in spirit. Once fear, judgment, and separation have been recognized, the next essential step is guarding thought and speech. Thought is the seed of experience, and speech is the bridge that expresses and reinforces it. Every word spoken, even internally, carries energy that impresses the subconscious and influences the external world. Limiting beliefs, negative speech, and habitual fear reinforce scarcity, tension, and disconnection. To live in alignment with spirit, one must cultivate vigilance over the mind and the words it produces, consciously selecting thoughts and statements that reflect unity, abundance, and wholeness. The first principle is awareness of the inner dialogue. Observe the ongoing stream of thought and notice patterns that reinforce limitation. Are there repeated statements of fear, doubt, or scarcity? Are you constantly comparing, criticizing, or worrying? These habitual thoughts are the molds that shape life experience. Awareness is not self-judgment, but recognition. Simply noticing these patterns interrupts their unconscious flow and creates a space for conscious choice. Without awareness, the mind continues to default to fear and limitation, reinforcing circumstances that reflect those patterns. The second principle is deliberate replacement of limiting thought. Once negative patterns are recognized, consciously redirect them toward alignment with divine truth. For example, when fear arises, affirm, I am safe, guided, and whole in spirit. When scarcity is imagined, declare, I am abundant. Provision flows to me effortlessly. When judgment surfaces, replace it with, I see unity, love, and wholeness in all things. Consistently redirecting thought retrains the subconscious, replacing the grooves of limitation with patterns that reflect Christ consciousness. Replacement should be calm, intentional, and persistent, reinforcing alignment rather than creating tension. The third principle is vigilance in speech. Words are powerful. They give form to thought. Negative or careless statements reinforce limitation and can influence your inner state even more strongly than private thought. Monitor every word you speak, both aloud and silently. Replace complaints, criticism, and judgment with statements of truth. Affirm, bless, and recognize unity. Speech becomes a tool for reinforcing alignment with spirit. Each carefully chosen word is a brushstroke, painting the reality of divine presence, abundance, and peace into life. Silence is an equally important tool in guarding speech. Speaking impulsively or reacting to external stimuli can reinforce limitation. Choosing stillness allows the mind to remain aligned with spirit and prevents the projection of unaligned energy into the world. Silence creates a protective space in which thought and feeling remain coherent and harmonious, and allows alignment to be preserved. By intentionally refraining from negative speech, even mentally, you prevent reinforcement of old patterns and maintain internal peace. The fourth principle is affirmation with feeling. Words gain their power when accompanied by emotion. Simply stating, "I am." Abundance without feeling does not fully impress the subconscious. Engage the heart and body, imagining the sensation of abundance flowing, peace settling, or love radiating. Feeling animates speech, transforming thought into lived reality. The combination of conscious thought, deliberate speech, and heartfelt feeling ensures that internal alignment is deep, durable, and effective. The fifth principle is future declaration. Speak your desires as if they are already realized. Instead of saying, "I hope I will be healed," affirm, "I am whole and full of life." Instead of "I want abundance," declare, "I am abundant now." Future declaration impresses the subconscious with certainty, aligning the mind and creating vibrational resonance for manifestation. Words spoken as present reality reinforce identity, shape perception, and encourage congruent action, allowing external circumstances to reflect inner recognition. Consistency is critical. Guarding thought and speech is not a one-time effort, but a continual practice. Repeated attention, correction, affirmation, and silence gradually reshape the subconscious, transforming default patterns into alignment with spirit. Daily practice through morning affirmations, intermittent awareness, and evening reflection reinforces new grooves, making Christ-centered thought and speech the natural default. Persistence ensures that alignment becomes habitual, even under stress or distraction. A practical exercise is midday check-ins. Pause periodically during daily activities to observe thought and speech. Catch moments of fear, judgment, or scarcity, and replace them immediately with recognition of truth. Speak words of blessing or affirmation, even silently reinforcing alignment. Small, repeated interventions create cumulative effects over time, gradually reshaping consciousness and life circumstances. Finally, patience is essential. Deeply ingrained patterns of fear and limitation require time and persistence to transform. Every return to alignment strengthens the subconscious impression of truth. Occasional lapses are part of the process. What matters is faithful return, not perfection. Over time, the mind and speech default naturally to truth, unity, and abundance. Limitation loses its grip, and life begins to reflect the internal recognition of God's presence, peace, and wholeness. Guarding thought and speech is the conscious choice to protect the mind from old habits, external influence, and habitual fear. Through awareness, deliberate replacement, heartfelt affirmation, intentional silence, and consistency, thought and speech become instruments of alignment. Life begins to reflect. Spirit fear diminishes, and the mind naturally operates from wholeness, love, and abundance. The careful cultivation of thought and speech is the foundation of spiritual freedom and the key to experiencing life as it has always been intended, harmonious, abundant, and aligned with God. Recognition and correction of thought and speech are the foundation of spiritual alignment, but consistent practice is what transforms understanding into habitual reality. Conscious alignment is not accidental. It requires intentional exercises that reinforce the mind, train the subconscious, and cultivate congruence between thought, word, and feeling. These practices establish patterns that automatically manifest life in harmony with spirit, allowing fear, judgment, and and separation to lose their influence over perception and action. By integrating practical, repeatable methods, alignment becomes a natural state rather than a fleeting effort. The first practice is daily observation of thought. Begin by dedicating specific periods each day to notice the stream of consciousness. Observe without judgment. Pay attention to recurring patterns of fear, scarcity, criticism, or separation. This is not about suppressing thoughts, but simply recognizing them. Awareness is the prerequisite for transformation, because what is unobserved continues unconsciously. The act of observation illuminates habitual grooves, creating space to intervene and redirect thought toward divine truth. Over time, this consistent awareness becomes automatic, allowing misaligned thoughts to be noticed and corrected before they manifest externally. The second practice is conscious replacement. Once negative or limiting thoughts are recognized, deliberately replace them with aligned statements. For example, when fear arises, declare, "I am peace, security, and guidance in God." When scarcity is imagined, affirm, "I am abundant. Supply flows to me effortlessly." When judgment surfaces, state, "I see unity, love, and wholeness in all beings." Replacement is not mechanical repetition. It is deliberate intention rooted in recognition of divine presence. Repeated practice impresses new grooves in the subconscious, gradually transforming default thought patterns and reinforcing Christ-centered consciousness. The third practice is affirmation and visualization combined with feeling. Thought alone may not fully impress the mind. Emotion and imagination are necessary to solidify alignment. When affirming "I am," abundance, visualize opportunities, resources, and generosity flowing freely, and allow the feeling of sufficiency to resonate through the body. When declaring "I am," peace, feel calm, centered, and unshakable. Feeling animates the word, making it alive in consciousness. Visualization strengthens the imprint on the subconscious, helping the mind integrate recognition into perception, decisions, and action. This triad of thought, speech, and feeling ensures alignment is deep and enduring. The fourth practice is intentional silence. Speech is powerful, but silence is equally potent. Refraining from negative, reactive, or unconscious speech protects alignment and allows the mind to rest in truth. Silent reflection, meditation, or quiet awareness throughout the day creates a fertile environment for recognition to stabilize. Silence prevents reinforcement of old patterns and strengthens the default state of Christ-centered consciousness. Even brief periods of stillness, repeated, consistently cultivate inner peace, clarity, and coherence between thought, word, and feeling. The fifth practice is future declaration. Rather than asking or hoping, affirm that the desired state already exists. For example, instead of "I hope for health," declare "I am whole and vibrant now." Instead of "I want abundance," affirm "I am abundant in every area of my life." This practice impresses the subconscious with certainty, aligning perception and expectation with divine reality. Words spoken as present truth, accompanied by feeling, strengthen recognition and encourage congruent actions. The subconscious accepts what is affirmed and felt as reality, producing external manifestations aligned with spirit. The sixth practice is midday check-ins. Periodically throughout the day, pause to observe thought, notice speech, and correct misalignment. Even brief moments of awareness and realignment have a cumulative effect. Catching fearful or judgmental thoughts early prevents them from reinforcing old patterns. These short intervals serve as reminders to stay aligned and deepen the habit of conscious practice, ensuring that alignment persists throughout the day rather than only during formal exercises. The seventh practice is evening reflection. At the end of the day, review thought patterns, speech, and emotional responses. Identify moments when alignment was maintained and moments when misalignment occurred. Correct any remaining patterns by reaffirming truth statements and engaging heartfelt feeling. Evening reflection reinforces recognition during rest, allowing the subconscious to integrate the day's corrections and prepare for continued alignment the next day. This practice consolidates learning and strengthens consistency over time. Consistency is essential for all practices. Alignment is built gradually through repetition, correction, and conscious engagement. Old patterns may reappear, but each return to recognition strengthens the mind's default state. Persistence without judgment ensures that Christ-centered thought, speech, and feeling become automatic in producing harmonious life experience. The cumulative effect is profound. The mind, heart, and behavior gradually operate from peace, unity, and abundance, reflecting divine truth naturally. Ultimately, practices for conscious alignment are the bridge between awareness and transformation. Observation illuminates patterns, conscious replacement redirects them, affirmation and feeling embed, truth, silence preserves, alignment, future declaration impresses certainty, and reflection consolidates change. Over time, these practices create a durable state of consciousness in which thought, speech, and feeling automatically reflect Christ-centered awareness. Life becomes a natural extension of spirit, expressing abundance, peace, and unity in every circumstance. By committing to these exercises, the mind is reshaped, the heart strengthened, and the outer world transformed into a reflection of divine order. Many people approach prayer as a process of asking, pleading, or bargaining, believing that life's blessings must be earned or persuaded from a distant God. This approach often leads to frustration, doubt, and feelings of inadequacy because it assumes separation from the divine source. Recognition, not request, is the principle that underlies effective spiritual practice. Recognition is the understanding that God's presence, provision, peace, and abundance are already complete and accessible within. Prayer, therefore, becomes the act of acknowledging reality rather than attempting to alter it. To pray from recognition is to align your mind with truth. Instead of saying, please give me health, success, or guidance, you affirm, I am whole, I am abundant, I am guided by God's presence. The focus shifts from external conditions to internal awareness. Recognition teaches that appearances are secondary, the inner state is primary. When thought, word, and feeling are anchored in recognition, prayer transforms from a reactive exercise into a proactive expression of divine truth. It is no longer a plea to change reality, but an acknowledgement that reality is already aligned with God. The first step in recognition-based prayer is awareness of current thought patterns. Observe the inner dialogue as it arises. How often is your mind focused on lack, limitation, fear, or judgment? These thoughts perpetuate the belief that prayer is necessary to obtain what is absent. Awareness allows you to identify the unconscious assumptions driving your request-based prayers. By noticing them, you can replace them with thoughts rooted in recognition. I am supplied. I am whole. I am at peace. Recognition is the active observation and replacement of misaligned thought with acknowledgement of truth. The second step is declaration of truth. Recognition is expressed through clear affirmative statements that reflect the divine presence in all aspects of life. For example, instead of saying, I hope for guidance, you declare, I am guided by Spirit in every decision. Instead of I pray for provision, you affirm, I am abundant. Supply flows to me now. The language of recognition is declarative, present tense, and emotionally resonant. It communicates to the subconscious that reality is already complete, reinforcing alignment with the divine blueprint. Feeling is critical to recognition. Words alone are insufficient. They must be accompanied by heartfelt emotion. When you declare, I am peace, imagine and feel the sensation of calm flowing through your body. When affirming abundance, sense the flow of provision and opportunity in every area of life. Emotion impresses truth upon the subconscious more deeply than intellect alone. Recognition combined with feeling creates a resonance that transforms consciousness, making prayer effective, not because of asking, but because it aligns the mind, heart, and subconscious with God's reality. Visualization enhances the principle of recognition. Close your eyes and picture life flowing from the state of truth you affirm. Imagine challenges responding naturally to your alignment, opportunities appearing effortlessly, and relationships reflecting love and harmony. Visualization engages thought, feeling, and imagination, simultaneously deepening the imprint of recognition in the subconscious. By repeatedly practicing visualization alongside declaration and emotion, the mind learns to operate from Christ-centered awareness rather than reactive thought. Another essential element is detachment from appearances. Prayer based on recognition does not deny external events, but understands that appearances are temporary and secondary. Life may present challenges, scarcity, or difficulty, yet the truth remains unchanging. God's presence is complete, abundance is constant, and provision is ever available. By focusing on the inner state rather than the outer form, the mind remains anchored, and prayer becomes a steady expression of alignment rather than an anxious plea for change. Consistency is crucial for embedding recognition into consciousness. Daily practice strengthens the subconscious grooves that support alignment. Morning declarations, midday check-ins, and evening reflections ensure that thought, word, and feeling remain coherent throughout the day. Even brief moments of deliberate recognition accumulate over time, gradually transforming the mind from reactive, request-based consciousness to proactive, truth-centered awareness. Consistency reinforces identity in God and stabilizes the habit of living prayerfully in recognition. The final principle is trust in divine timing. The done deal exists in spirit even before it manifests in appearance. Recognition acknowledges this reality. When the mind fully accepts that God's order is complete, prayer becomes effortless, free from doubt and struggle. Trust amplifies the power of recognition, allowing the subconscious to operate harmoniously with divine law. Patience is not passive. It is active faith in the eternal truth that life is already orchestrated perfectly and every need is met. In conclusion, the principle of recognition transforms prayer from asking into acknowledgement, from anxiety into faith, from separation into unity. Awareness of thought, declarative language, feeling, visualization, detachment from appearances, consistency, and trust constitute the framework of recognition-based prayer. By embracing this approach, the mind, heart, and subconscious align naturally with spirit, creating a life of peace, abundance, and divine harmony. Recognition is the key to effective prayer, not seeking what is missing, but acknowledging what has always been present. Once the principle of recognition is understood, the question arises, how can it be consistently practiced? How can one maintain alignment with spirit in a world that constantly presents fear, distraction, and challenge? The answer is structure. The fourfold prayer is a practical method that anchors consciousness in God's presence, reinforcing recognition through repetition, gratitude, stillness, and aligned action. Each stage supports the others, creating a complete framework that integrates thought, word, and feeling, ensuring that prayer becomes an active expression of divine reality rather than a passive request. The first stage is the truth statement. Begin by declaring a simple affirmation that reflects God's presence and your divine identity. This is not a plea or a wish, but a recognition of what already exists. For example, say aloud, I am peace, I am abundance, I am life flowing through me. Speak each word deliberately, allowing it to resonate fully in your mind and heart. The truth statement is the foundation of the fourfold prayer because it establishes the inner reality from which all other stages flow. By affirming what is eternal, you disengage from appearances that may suggest limitation. The second stage is gratitude. Gratitude amplifies recognition by connecting thought with feeling. After stating a truth, express sincere thanks for its presence in your life. For instance, after affirming, I am abundant, add, thank you God for provision, for guidance, and for the opportunities flowing to me now. Gratitude transforms intellectual acknowledgement into a heartfelt experience, engaging the subconscious in alignment with divine truth. It creates emotional resonance, ensuring that recognition is not merely cognitive, but fully embodied. Gratitude also neutralizes fear and doubt by reminding the mind of the abundance already present. The third stage is stillness. After affirming and expressing gratitude, rest in quiet awareness. This is the stage where thought and emotion settle, allowing recognition to take root without interference. Stillness is not passivity. It is a receptive state in which the subconscious can absorb the vibration of truth. Close your eyes, breathe deeply, and release attachment to outcomes or external appearances. Let the words and feelings of affirmation permeate your being. In stillness, the mind internalizes recognition, laying the foundation for consistent alignment and preparing the heart for action. The fourth stage is aligned action. Prayer is not complete until it is expressed in the outer world. Action becomes the tangible expression of inner alignment. If you have declared peace, respond calmly in challenging situations. If you have affirmed abundance, act with generosity and confidence in the resources around you. If you have affirmed health, make choices that reflect vitality and care for your body. Aligned action is not effortful or anxious. It is spontaneous, flowing naturally from a consciousness rooted in recognition. Each action reinforces the fourfold prayer, creating a feedback loop that strengthens both mind and reality. The fourfold prayer is more than a sequence. It is an integrated system. Each stage supports the other's. Truth without gratitude lacks emotional depth. Gratitude without stillness lacks absorption. Stillness without action lacks expression. Action without truth lacks direction. Together, the stages create a holistic approach in which mind, heart, and behavior converge, producing a state of consciousness that is naturally aligned with spirit. Over time, the practice transforms prayer from occasional effort into an ongoing, effortless state of recognition. Emotion and feeling play a critical role throughout the fourfold prayer. Declaring truth engages thought, gratitude engages the heart, stillness engages the nervous system, and aligned action engages the body and environment. This multi-level engagement ensures that recognition is embedded deeply in the subconscious, creating habitual alignment. Thought, word, feeling, and action work together, allowing inner state and outer circumstances to reflect divine reality simultaneously. The fourfold prayer can be practiced at any time, though integrating it into daily life is ideal. Morning practice sets the tone for the day. Midday practice restores alignment during challenges, and evening practice consolidates recognition and reinforces subconscious acceptance. Flexibility allows the method to adapt to life while maintaining its integrity. The essential principle is conscious engagement, moving deliberately through each stage with sincerity and focus. Over time, the fourfold prayer cultivates inner resilience. Challenges, setbacks, or unexpected difficulties no longer dictate the mind's state because alignment is habitual. Circumstances may shift, but recognition remains steady, producing consistent peace, clarity, and confidence. Life ceases to be a series of reactive responses and becomes a reflection of inner truth expressed through consistent thought, word, and action. Ultimately, the fourfold prayer transforms consciousness into an active state of recognition. It establishes a rhythm in which the mind defaults to truth. The heart engages with gratitude, stillness, anchors, perception, and action expresses alignment. By practicing the fourfold prayer consistently, you move from reactive, request-based consciousness to proactive, Christ-centered awareness. Prayer becomes effortless. Inner peace becomes the baseline, and life begins to reflect the eternal presence of God in every moment. Even when one understands recognition and practices the fourfold prayer, consistently obstacles will arise. Life constantly presents distractions, unexpected challenges, and habitual thought patterns that pull the mind back into fear, doubt, and impatience. These challenges are not failures, but opportunities to deepen awareness and strengthen faith. Troubleshooting prayer involves recognizing the subtle and overt obstacles that prevent full alignment, addressing them gently, and returning consistently to recognition without judgment. By doing so, the mind, heart, and subconscious gradually adopt Christ-centered consciousness as the natural default. A common obstacle is distraction. While practicing prayer, the mind may wander to worries, tasks, or memories, making it seem as though the practice is ineffective. Distraction is not a sign of weakness. It is the mind's habit of identifying with external circumstances. The solution is simple: gently return attention to the truth statement or affirmation. Each time you notice distraction and return to alignment, the subconscious strengthens its capacity to hold recognition automatically. Repeated returns reinforce focus, gradually training the mind to maintain Christ-centered awareness even amid distractions. Doubt is another pervasive challenge. It arises when appearances seem to contradict affirmations of truth. I have prayed for abundance, yet I struggle, or I declare peace, yet fear persists. Doubt often seems rational, yet it undermines alignment because it shifts focus from recognition to appearances. The solution is steadfast reaffirmation of truth, coupled with feeling God's presence is complete. I am abundant and guided. Repetition with conviction and emotion gradually weakens the power of doubt, reinforcing trust in divine law and presence. Emotional turbulence can interfere with prayer. Anger, grief, or anxiety may arise, making it difficult to feel aligned. These emotions are not obstacles to be suppressed, but indicators of habitual patterns that need correction. Recognize the emotion, release attachment to it, and redirect focus toward truth. For example, when fear arises, declare, I am safe and protected by God's presence. When frustration surfaces, affirm, I am guided and supported in all situations. Emotional turbulence, when acknowledged and realigned, becomes a teacher rather than a barrier. Impatience is subtle but powerful. When results do not appear immediately, the mind pressures you to repeat prayers, excessively analyze outcomes, or question effectiveness. Impatience arises from identification with appearances rather than recognition of reality. The remedy is trust in divine timing, just as a seed grows unseen before sprouting. Recognition unfolds in the subconscious before external manifestation. Practicing patience allows the inner state to remain anchored, ensuring that outer circumstances eventually reflect alignment. Guilt and feelings of unworthiness are also common obstacles. Many question whether they are good enough to claim alignment or divine presence, thinking, who am I to declare wholeness, abundance, or health? Recognition is independent of personal merit. Affirm I am, an expression of God. Alignment is inherent and complete. Shifting focus from ego-based judgment to divine identity dissolves guilt and restores confidence, allowing the mind to operate from wholeness and trust rather than fear and limitation. Inconsistency challenges alignment. Life is busy, and it is easy to skip practice, creating gaps that reinforce old habits. The solution is gentle persistence. Even brief daily practice maintains alignment. Lapses are natural. What matters is the faithful return to recognition. Repetition, consistency, and forgiveness of lapses gradually embed Christ-centered thought, word, and feeling, ensuring lasting transformation. Another common obstacle is rehearsing problems instead of acknowledging truth. During prayer, it is easy to recount difficulties or replay fears, unintentionally reinforcing limitation. The mind must focus on recognition rather than appearances. Replace I hope for success with I am success unfolding now. Replace I worry about provision with I am supplied abundantly. Redirecting focus from problems to recognition strengthens subconscious alignment and ensures prayer produces results. A further challenge is dryness or lack of sensation. Some practitioners feel nothing during prayer and assume it is ineffective. Spiritual alignment often operates beneath conscious awareness. Subconscious impressions and vibrational realignment occur quietly, like seeds germinating before visible growth. Trust that the mind is receiving the imprint of recognition, even if feelings are subtle or delayed. Persistence ensures eventual integration and manifestation. Finally, contradiction in daily life can interfere. One may declare recognition during prayer, yet act, speak, or think inconsistently throughout the day. This dilutes the effect of alignment. The solution is congruence, observe behaviors, and thoughts, correct misalignments immediately, and return to recognition. Each correction reinforces the subconscious and strengthens the default state of Christ-centered awareness. Over time, congruence becomes habitual, integrating thought, word, feeling, and action seamlessly. Troubleshooting prayer is not about perfection, but about faithful return. Every distraction, doubt, or emotional disturbance is an opportunity to strengthen alignment. Each interruption, when addressed consciously, teaches the mind to default to recognition instead of reaction. Gradually, habitual patterns of fear, scarcity, and judgment weaken, and the subconscious embraces Christ-centered consciousness. Prayer becomes effortless, inner peace becomes the baseline, and life begins to reflect the divine order that has always existed. By identifying obstacles, applying corrective practices, and returning consistently to recognition, the mind is trained to operate from alignment. Distractions, doubts, and emotions no longer dominate perception. Appearances cease to dictate reality. The fourfold prayer, reinforced through awareness, consistency, and congruence, becomes an ongoing, effortless state of consciousness. Spiritual practice evolves from effort into living alignment, producing peace, abundance, and divine expression naturally in every aspect of life. Life often feels obscured because a veil lies between perception and reality. This veil or curtain is woven from fear, judgment, attachment, and misidentification with appearances. Until this curtain is lifted, the mind interprets circumstances as ultimate truth, reinforcing limitation, struggle, and disconnection from spirit. Removing the curtain is the essential process of clearing resistance, dissolving illusions, and revealing the eternal presence of God that underlies all experience. The practice is subtle, yet profound, transforming perception, thought, and feeling, and allowing life to be experienced as whole and complete, rather than fractured and uncertain. The first step is awareness of the veil. Observe moments when fear, anxiety, or scarcity dominate thought, or when judgment and criticism color perception. Recognize these patterns as the curtain, not as reality. Appearances are often misleading, creating an illusion of separation or lack. Awareness illuminates the veil, exposing its nature and reducing its unconscious control over thought and behavior. Simply noticing that the curtain exists is transformative because the act of observation weakens habitual unconscious patterns. Recognition of the veil is the gateway to freedom. The second step is release. Let go of attachment to appearances, outcomes, and fear-based thinking. Resistance maintains the curtain, so surrendering attachment allows it to fall away. Imagine holding a heavy cloth in front of your eyes. Pulling, tugging, or fighting it only reinforces obstruction. Letting it drop reveals the light beyond. Similarly, releasing control, worry, and judgment opens the mind to perceive reality as spirit rather than appearances. Release is an active conscious surrender, not avoidance or repression. It is trust in the completeness of God's presence. The third step is attention to truth. Where attention flows, energy follows. Focus deliberately on God's presence, abundance, peace, and unity, rather than the shadow of fear or limitation. Affirm, observe, and feel what is already complete. Attention shifts the mind away from appearances and toward recognition, thinning the veil. Without consistent focus, old patterns regain strength, reinforcing limitation. By directing attention consciously, the practitioner reorients perception, allowing spirit to replace illusion as the basis for thought, feeling, and action. The fourth step is silent observation. Words and mental effort often reinforce the illusion by engaging the analytical mind or ego-based judgment. Silence, on the other hand, creates receptive space where recognition can settle and integrate. In stillness, thought and feeling align, subconscious patterns are recalibrated, and the presence of spirit becomes evident. Silence does not require the absence of activity, but the absence of inner clinging to appearances. Resting in quiet awareness dissolves habitual patterns and allows perception to be guided by truth rather than fear. The fifth step is consistent practice. The curtain has been woven over a lifetime of habitual thought, speech, and emotion. Its removal is gradual, requiring repeated observation, release attention, and silence. Daily practice strengthens the mind's capacity to perceive reality, accurately diminishing the influence of fear, judgment, and separation. Each moment of return to awareness reinforces alignment, gradually creating a stable state of Christ-centered perception. Consistency is the key that transforms occasional insight into habitual recognition. The curtain often manifests as ordinary human experiences: illness, scarcity, conflict, anxiety, or self-doubt. These are not ultimate realities, they are patterns reinforced by habitual thought. The mind identifies appearances as truth, creating a feedback loop of reaction and struggle. Lifting the curtain requires seeing beyond appearances to the presence of God, recognizing life abundance and wholeness as already complete. By practicing observation, release attention and stillness, these ordinary appearances lose their power to dominate perception. Resistance is natural when removing the curtain. Old habits, conditioned thought patterns, and ego-driven desires may create doubt, distraction, or inner conflict. Resistance should not be judged. It is evidence that the veil exists and that transformation is occurring. Meet resistance with gentleness and patience. Each conscious return to awareness weakens the hold of the curtain, teaching the mind to default to recognition rather than reaction. The fruit of removing the curtain is profound freedom and clarity. Once the veil thins, presence becomes tangible. Fear dissolves, judgment softens, and perception aligns with eternal truth. Life is no longer experienced as a series of reactions to external circumstances. It becomes an expression of inner alignment. The mind and heart respond naturally from identity in God, rather than from appearances or old patterns. Each moment of recognition reinforces congruence between thought, word, feeling, and action. Ultimately, removing the curtain is the conscious act of lifting illusion to reveal reality as it has always existed: whole, complete, abundant, and eternal. Through awareness, release, focused attention, silent observation, and consistent practice, the veil of fear, judgment, and misperception dissolves. Life becomes a reflection of divine presence, and the mind rests in the knowledge that God is ever present, that all is complete, and that appearances no longer obscure recognition. By removing the curtain, the practitioner enters freedom, clarity, and alignment with spirit, experiencing life as it was always meant to be: abundant, harmonious, and unified. Once the veil has been lifted, what remains is the sacred space in which transformation deepens. Silence. Silence is not emptiness, it is fullness. It is the womb of spirit, the chamber where thought, word, and feeling merge with divine presence. In this quiet space, recognition of God's reality incubates and grows until it naturally manifests in life. Just as a seed must develop roots before sprouting, spiritual alignment must settle in the mind, heart, and subconscious before external manifestation can occur. Silence is the fertile ground where transformation takes root. Many resist silence because the mind has been conditioned to constant activity, stimulation, and distraction. Society equates productivity with action and value with visible results. Yet the law of spirit operates differently. Inner alignment, recognition, and peace do not arise from frantic effort, asking, or manipulation. They arise from stillness. Silence provides the environment in which recognition can settle deeply. It allows the subconscious to absorb truth impressions, to be impressed without interference, and inner patterns to harmonize with divine law. The first step in entering the womb of silence is setting aside dedicated time. Choose moments for quiet reflection, meditation, or prayer, even if brief. Sit comfortably, close the eyes, and focus on the breath. Allow thoughts to arise and pass without attachment. Observation without interference is essential. The mind should not be forced into silence, but gently guided to rest. This intentional quiet creates a receptive state in which recognition, feeling, and divine presence can integrate fully. The second step is engaging the heart and body. Silence is not only mental, but embodied. Feel the vibration of truth as it resonates within the body. When affirming "I am peace," sense calm spreading through the chest, shoulders, and mind. When recognizing abundance, feel expansion, lightness, and flow. Emotional resonance anchors the experience of truth, embedding recognition into subconscious perception. Silence allows these feelings to settle without distraction, transforming abstract acknowledgement into tangible inner reality. Visualization further enhances the womb of silence. Imagine life flowing naturally from the state of alignment. Picture yourself responding to challenges with calm abundance and love. Observe interactions unfolding harmoniously and opportunities arising effortlessly. Visualization engages thought, feeling, and imagination, simultaneously strengthening the imprint of recognition on the subconscious. Repetition of this practice reinforces Christ-centered consciousness, gradually replacing habitual reactive patterns with aligned perception. Silence also dissolves resistance. Every habitual thought, attachment, or fear loses strength when it is not fed by attention. In stillness, the mind becomes spacious, allowing insight, clarity, and truth to emerge. Resistance cannot survive where energy is no longer allocated to old patterns. By resting in silence, the practitioner weakens habitual reactivity and strengthens the ability to perceive reality from recognition rather than fear. Another benefit of the womb of silence is preparation for action. Just as roots must develop before a tree can bear, fruit recognition must settle internally before being expressed externally. Actions taken from a quiet, aligned state carry wisdom, creativity, and efficacy. Decisions made from stillness reflect clarity rather than reaction. Words spoken from inner alignment carry peace rather than anxiety. Life begins to mirror the internal state because silence allows recognition to incubate fully before it is expressed in thought, speech, and action. The practice also cultivates patience. In silence, the mind learns to trust the unseen process of spirit. Transformation, guidance, and manifestation unfold according to divine timing. Silent reflection teaches that outcomes are secondary. The inner state is primary. Patience strengthens alignment and reduces anxiety, cultivating faith in the process and trust that life is already complete in spirit. Consistency is essential. Regular practice of silence, morning, midday, and evening, reinforces alignment, creating a stable rhythm of awareness and recognition. Even brief intervals of stillness repeated consistently produce cumulative effects over time. The mind, heart, and body gradually adopt the default state of alignment with divine presence, reducing reactivity and enhancing peace. Ultimately, the womb of silence transforms consciousness. Thought, word, and feeling converge, allowing recognition to be fully integrated. Resistance weakens, clarity emerges, and inner alignment becomes habitual. The mind learns to rest in peace, abundance, and wholeness, regardless of appearances. In this sacred space, recognition moves from theory into lived experience. Life begins to flow naturally from spirit, and the outer world reflects the inner state of alignment. Silence is the bridge between awareness and manifestation. It provides the environment in which recognition, feeling, and divine presence are fully embodied. Through dedicated practice, engagement of heart and body, visualization, and consistent return to stillness, the mind transforms from a reactive state to one of effortless alignment. In the womb of silence, the seed of recognition grows, preparing the practitioner to manifest peace, abundance, and unity in all aspects of life. Words alone are powerful, yet they reach their highest potency when infused with feeling. Thought is the blueprint, speech is the form, and feeling is the life that animates both. Without feeling, affirmations may remain abstract, intellectual, or disconnected from the subconscious. When feeling is consciously applied, however, words are transformed into living energy that resonates through mind, body, and spirit. Feeling is the medium through which recognition is impressed upon consciousness, and it is the force that allows words to manifest as tangible experience in life. Spiritual feeling differs from ordinary emotion. Ordinary emotion reacts to external circumstances. Joy arises when desires are met, anger when obstacles appear, and fear when threats are perceived. These reactive patterns are fleeting, often inconsistent, and shaped by appearances. Spiritual feeling, on the other hand, is anchored in truth. It arises from recognition of God's presence, wholeness, abundance, and unity. Unlike transient emotion, spiritual feeling is steady, enduring, and independent of external events. It allows the mind and heart to resonate with eternal truth, producing alignment even amid appearances that suggest limitation. The first step in incarnating the word is awareness of emotional state. Before speaking or affirming, observe the feelings that accompany thought. Notice whether fear, anxiety, doubt, or judgment colors the mind. Recognizing these influences allows you to consciously replace them with aligned spiritual feeling. For example, when declaring I am peace, notice if tension or worry arises. Allow the mind and body to shift, consciously cultivating the sensation of calm, centeredness, and trust. Awareness ensures that feeling supports rather than undermines recognition. The second step is engagement of the body and heart. Feeling is not abstract. It is experienced through physical sensation and emotional resonance. When affirming truth, allow the body to participate fully. Feel warmth in the chest, lightness in the mind, and a flow of vitality throughout the body. This embodiment reinforces the subconscious imprint of recognition, turning intellectual acknowledgement into lived reality. Words combined with feeling become dynamic, activating energy that shapes perception, thought, and action in alignment with spirit. Visualization strengthens the integration of word and feeling. Close your eyes and imagine living the truth you declare. If affirming abundance, see yourself moving through a life filled with supply, generosity, and ease. If affirming health, feel vitality coursing through every cell and joint. If declaring peace, imagine calm radiating through your thoughts, words, and interactions. Visualization unites mind, emotion, and imagination, reinforcing the vibrational reality of recognition and embedding it deeply in the subconscious. The third step is repetition with emotional resonance. Feeling becomes more potent through consistent practice. Daily repetition of affirmations, combined with visualization and conscious emotional engagement, strengthens subconscious alignment. Each repetition deepens recognition, gradually displacing old patterns of fear, limitation, and doubt. This is not mechanical repetition, but an intentional engagement of mind, word, and feeling, each reinforcing the other in a harmonious rhythm. Gratitude is a natural enhancer of spiritual feeling. Expressing appreciation for what is already present magnifies the emotional resonance of the word. When declaring I am, abundant, follow with heartfelt thanks for the supply, opportunities, and resources that exist in life. Gratitude bridges thought and feeling, transforming acknowledgement into an active, embodied experience of recognition. It strengthens alignment and ensures that the subconscious fully integrates truth. The fourth step is embodied congruence. Thought, word, and feeling must align with action. Feelings must not contradict speech, and speech must not contradict thought. If tension, doubt, or judgment arises while declaring peace, consciously release it and allow feeling to reflect the word being spoken. Congruence ensures that recognition resonates coherently through mind, body, and environment. This consistency allows the subconscious to accept truth as reality, producing external manifestations aligned with inner consciousness. The fifth step is trust and patience. Spiritual feeling requires time to integrate fully. The mind and body have been conditioned for years by fear, limitation, and separation. Repeated engagement with thought, word, and feeling gradually retrains perception. Trust that the subconscious is absorbing the truth, even if immediate external evidence is not apparent. Feeling consistently applied accelerates manifestation because it impresses recognition more deeply than thought alone. Ultimately, feeling incarnates the word by uniting the mental, verbal, and emotional aspects of consciousness. Thought alone plans, speech alone forms, feeling alone activates. Together they create a coherent state of recognition that transforms mind, heart, body, and external circumstances. Feeling is the life force of recognition, animating prayer, affirmations, and visualization to produce tangible results. Without it, alignment remains abstract. With it, reality begins to reflect the eternal truth of God's presence. By consciously integrating thoughtward and feeling, spiritual practice becomes dynamic and effective. Recognition moves beyond intellectual comprehension into lived experience. The subconscious accepts truth as reality, and external life aligns naturally with inner alignment. Feeling is the bridge that transforms recognition from concept to embodiment, turning prayer and affirmation into living manifestation of divine law. Through consistent practice, every word spoken with heartfelt feeling becomes a channel for spirit, creating harmony, abundance, and wholeness in life. Every external circumstance originates as thought. Before words are spoken, actions are taken, or events unfold, the blueprint exists in consciousness. Thought is the mold into which life is poured, shaping reality in accordance with belief, expectation, and perception. Just as molten metal conforms to its mold, so does life reflect the patterns established by repeated thought. Fear, limitation, and judgment create molds that produce struggle, scarcity, and disconnection. Conversely, thought, aligned with spirit, Christ consciousness, and divine truth, produces life flowing with abundance, peace, and harmony. Recognizing this creative power of thought is the first step toward conscious manifestation. Many people underestimate the impact of their thoughts, believing they are private, inconsequential, or fleeting. Yet every sustained thought impresses the subconscious mind, which in turn shapes perception, behavior, and circumstance. Fleeting thoughts may pass unnoticed, but dominant and recurring patterns define the life one experiences. Thoughts rooted in fear generate anxiety and limitation. Thoughts of judgment reinforce conflict and separation. Thoughts of scarcity attract conditions of lack. Conversely, repeated thoughts of peace, abundance, and unity establish molds that naturally manifest in life. Understanding thought as mold empowers the practitioner to shape experience intentionally rather than reactively. The first step in conscious molding is awareness. Observe the content of your mind throughout the day. Which patterns dominate thought? Do they reinforce fear, scarcity, or judgment? Are they aligned with recognition of God's presence and wholeness? Awareness is the prerequisite for transformation. Without recognition of the existing mold, old patterns continue to dictate experience unconsciously. Simply noticing habitual thought patterns reduces their control and opens space for deliberate redirection toward truth. Awareness is illumination. It reveals the structure into which life is being poured. The second step is intentional replacement. Once limiting patterns are observed, consciously replace them with thoughts aligned with divine truth. If fear arises, affirm, "I am safe, guided, and at peace in God." If scarcity appears, declare, "I am abundant. Life provides for me effortlessly." If judgment surfaces, state, "I see unity, love, and wholeness in all beings." Replacement is not forceful suppression. It is a gentle, consistent reorientation. Repeated practice impresses the subconscious with new molds, gradually displacing the old patterns of limitation. Over time, alignment becomes automatic and thought defaults to recognition rather than fear. The third step is repetition and reinforcement. Thought becomes effective as a mold only through consistency. Occasional affirmations or recognition exercises produce minimal effect. Like carving a channel through stone, repeated focus engraves the mold deeply into the subconscious. The more often thought patterns aligned with spirit are practiced, the more automatic they become. Daily engagement in observation, replacement, affirmation, and visualization strengthens the mind's ability to default to truth, producing outer circumstances that reflect inner alignment. Visualization is an important tool for reinforcing the mold of thought. Close your eyes and imagine living the truth you declare. If affirming abundance, picture opportunities, provision, and generosity flowing freely. If affirming health, see vitality and freedom of movement saturating every cell. If affirming peace, visualize calm, radiating through every interaction and circumstance. Visualization engages imagination, feeling, and thought, simultaneously deepening the impression upon the subconscious. Repeated practice ensures that recognition becomes internalized, habitual, and natural. Identity anchors thought. Patterns must reflect recognition of self as a divine expression. Thoughts like "I am weak" or "I cannot succeed" reinforce limitation. Aligning thought with divine identity ensures that consciousness creates life from recognition rather than fear. Statements such as "I am strength, clarity, and life itself" establish the mold of reality rooted in God's presence. When identity is clear, desires, decisions, and actions flow naturally from alignment, producing life consistent with spiritual law. A practical daily exercise is thought monitoring. Pause periodically to observe inner dialogue. Catch thoughts rooted in fear, scarcity, or judgment, and replace them with aligned recognition. Even brief interventions repeated throughout the day compound over time, reshaping default thought patterns. This practice cultivates awareness, consistency, and mastery over the subconscious, ensuring that life reflects alignment rather than reactivity. Patience is essential in molding thought. Old patterns are deeply entrenched and require time to dissolve. Each return to awareness, replacement, and alignment strengthens the subconscious impression of truth. Occasional lapses are natural. The key is faithful return. Over time, the mind internalizes the mold of recognition, automatically producing outer circumstances consistent with spirit. Thought becomes a deliberate tool, rather than an unconscious force shaping life according to divine law, rather than appearances. In summary, thought is the primary mold through which life is created. Awareness illuminates patterns. Deliberate replacement reorients. The subconscious repetition engraves the mold. Visualization strengthens the impression, and identity anchors recognition. Patience and consistency ensure that the mind defaults to Christ-centered thought, producing peace, abundance, and harmony. By consciously molding thought, the practitioner shapes reality in alignment with divine presence, transforming life into a living reflection of spirit. If thought is the mold of life, speech is the brushstroke that brings it into form. Words give definition, texture, and clarity to the patterns created by thought. While thought establishes potential, speech activates it, broadcasting intention to the subconscious and influencing the external world. Every statement spoken, whether aloud or silently, carries vibrational energy. Words aligned with spirit reinforce recognition, unity, and abundance, while misaligned speech perpetuates fear, scarcity, and disconnection. Understanding speech as a creative tool is essential for consciously manifesting a life in harmony with God. The first principle is awareness of speech. Most people underestimate the power of habitual language. Phrases such as "I can't," "I'm overwhelmed," or "I always fail" may appear insignificant, but carry energetic weight. Even casual expressions or jokes reinforce patterns of limitation if repeated frequently. Awareness involves observing words before speaking and noticing internal dialogue. When speech reflects fear, judgment, or scarcity, the practitioner gains an opportunity to correct and align. Awareness is the first step in transforming speech into an instrument of creation. The second principle is deliberate replacement. Words that contradict divine truth must be consciously redirected. When a thought or statement arises that reflects fear, lack, or judgment, replace it with a declaration of recognition. For example, when saying "I'm worried about provision," affirm "I am abundant. Life provides for me effortlessly." Instead of complaining, declare "I am peace. I am wholeness." Repetition of deliberate, aligned statements impresses the subconscious, reinforcing recognition as the default mode of consciousness. Replacement is not judgmental or forceful, but a calm, intentional redirection toward truth. The third principle is emotional engagement. Words alone are insufficient. Speech gains potency when accompanied by feeling. When declaring "I am," peace, feel calm, settle through the body. When affirming abundance, experience the sensation of provision and ease flowing naturally. Emotion animates the word, transforming it from mechanical repetition into living energy. Feeling reinforces recognition in the subconscious, ensuring that speech has a lasting impact on thought patterns, perception, and outer circumstances. Blessing is a practical extension of aligned speech. Speak affirmations of love, unity, and well-being for yourself and others. Statements such as "may peace surround you" or "may abundance flow into your life" create a vibrational field that reinforces recognition. Blessing strengthens alignment within and extends its effects outward, harmonizing interactions and elevating the consciousness of both speaker and recipient. Through blessing, speech becomes a channel for divine energy, reinforcing Christ-centered awareness. Future declaration is a critical component. Words should reflect reality as already complete. Instead of saying, "I hope for success," affirm, "I am success unfolding now." Replace "I want health" with "I am whole and vibrant today." This approach communicates certainty to the subconscious, creating alignment between inner recognition and external manifestation. Words spoken as present reality carry conviction, reinforcing the mold established by thought and enlivened by feeling. Silence complements speech. Avoid reactive, habitual, or negative chatter that reinforces old patterns. Silence allows recognition to settle without interference, preserving alignment and strengthening subconscious integration. Intentional pauses throughout the day prevent reinforcement of fear, judgment, or scarcity, creating mental and emotional space for truth to dominate. Even brief periods of conscious stillness support the power of aligned speech. Consistency is essential. Transforming speech into a brushstroke of spirit requires repeated practice. Daily exercises, affirmations, blessings, and reflective listening embed recognition into subconscious patterns. Over time, aligned speech becomes habitual, automatic, and consistent with inner truth. Life begins to reflect the frequency of spoken recognition because thought, word, and feeling operate coherently. Consistency ensures lasting transformation. The final principle is congruence. Speech must match thought and feeling. If internal tension, doubt, or judgment accompanies words, their impact is diluted. Align words with true recognition, anchored in emotion and supported by conscious thought. Congruent speech strengthens the subconscious impression, ensuring that outer expression matches inner alignment. When thought, speech, and feeling operate coherently, speech becomes a powerful vehicle for manifestation, communication, and transformation. Ultimately, speech is creative. Like a painter wielding a brush, the practitioner shapes reality through deliberate, aligned words. Each statement expresses identity, reinforces recognition, and impresses the subconscious. Words, when combined with feeling and grounded in thought, aligned with spirit, manifest harmony, abundance, peace, and unity in life. By mastering speech as a brushstroke, consciousness becomes a seamless instrument of divine expression, allowing external circumstances to reflect inner alignment effortlessly. Through awareness, deliberate replacement, emotional engagement, blessing, future declaration, silence, consistency, and congruence, speech transforms from ordinary communication into an act of creation. Words carry the energy of recognition, broadcasting the mind's alignment with God's presence, embedding truth into the subconscious and shaping outer life in harmony with divine law. Speech as brushstroke paints the reality of spirit in every aspect of life, expressing the eternal truth of God through thought, word, and feeling. After thought has been molded, and speech has been aligned, and after feeling has given life to both, there comes the recognition of grace, the understanding that what you seek has already been completed in spirit. The done deal is the spiritual law that everything necessary for life, abundance, and alignment already exists in God. Nothing needs to be created, persuaded, or earned externally. The practitioner's role is to recognize, accept, and embody what is eternally present, releasing struggle, doubt, and effort born of separation. Grace is the culmination of spiritual alignment, the point where recognition transforms into effortless living. Many approach life as though they must constantly strive, control, or negotiate for provision, success, or peace. This mindset stems from identification with appearances rather than recognition of reality. Struggle, effort, and anxiety arise because the mind believes that external circumstances define fulfillment. Grace, however, teaches that all is complete in spirit. Every need is met, every intention is fulfilled, and every desire aligns perfectly with divine law. The done deal is not a future event, but a present reality existing independent of perception or circumstance. The first step in embracing grace is acceptance of completeness. Affirm internally, I am supplied, I am whole, I am abundant. Recognize that the mind, heart, and life already possess what is needed. This does not negate effort, but shifts the source of action from scarcity to abundance, from reaction to alignment. Acceptance releases tension and allows the subconscious to operate from recognition rather than fear or lack. When life is approached from a state of completion, action becomes effortless, clear, and harmonious with divine law. The second step is detachment from outcomes. Most struggle arises from identification with appearances and attachment to specific results. Detachment does not mean passivity. It is the conscious decision to operate from recognition rather than expectation. By acknowledging that provision, guidance, and alignment are already present, the mind remains anchored in truth. Outcomes manifest in divine timing, flowing naturally from inner alignment. Detachment transforms prayer, action, and expectation into expressions of trust, reducing anxiety and amplifying clarity. The third step is embodied trust and faith. Grace is not intellectual understanding alone, it is a lived state. Trust that all is complete allows thought, speech, and feeling to resonate in coherence with divine law. When doubt arises, return to recognition. The supply, peace, and guidance I need exist now and always. Faith anchors the subconscious, reinforcing alignment. Over time, habitual faith replaces worry, impatience, and second-guessing. The mind defaults to recognition, and life unfolds as a natural expression of God's order. The fourth step is alignment in action. Grace does not eliminate effort, it transforms it. Actions taken from a state of recognition reflect clarity, wisdom, and divine support. Decisions are made without desperation, anxiety, or fear. Words spoken express truth and peace, and interactions reflect unity rather than judgment. Aligned action is effortless because it flows from a consciousness anchored in completion. External circumstances begin to mirror the internal state, revealing that the done deal is always present even when appearances suggest otherwise. The fifth step is integration of thought, word, and feeling. Grace is fully experienced when internal recognition aligns with external expression. Thought must reflect abundance, and peace speech must affirm and bless, and feeling must resonate with trust and gratitude. Congruence ensures that subconscious patterns reinforce recognition rather than contradiction. When integrated thought, word, and feeling produce life that is naturally abundant, harmonious, and aligned with God. Each action statement and emotion becomes a reflection of the already complete reality within spirit. Gratitude amplifies the experience of grace. By acknowledging what is already present, the practitioner reinforces alignment. Instead of waiting for provision or peace, express gratitude for their existing presence. For example, affirm, I am grateful for the abundance, clarity, and guidance flowing into my life now. Gratitude deepens the resonance of recognition, embedding the done deal in consciousness and producing a tangible experience of alignment. Consistency strengthens the perception of grace. Daily engagement in thought alignment, speech, feeling, and recognition consolidates subconscious acceptance of the done deal. Even when appearances fluctuate, the mind remains anchored in truth. Short practices repeated faithfully, morning affirmations, midday awareness, checks, evening reflection, ensure the permanence of alignment, gradually dissolving old patterns of fear, doubt, and effort-based struggle. Patience is essential. The done deal may manifest externally, according to divine timing, not human schedule. Trusting in God's orchestration allows the practitioner to remain anchored in peace, knowing that recognition is the ultimate source of reality. Even when outcomes appear delayed, alignment continues, and the subconscious impresses the certainty of divine completion into life. Patience strengthens resilience and deepens faith, ensuring that recognition is not contingent upon external confirmation. Ultimately, grace and the done deal are the culmination of all spiritual practice. Thought-molded speech, aligned and feeling engaged, converge into effortless recognition of completeness. Life ceases to be a struggle against circumstances and becomes a reflection of inner alignment. Prayer becomes acknowledgement rather than request. Action becomes expression rather than effort. And consciousness rests naturally in peace, abundance, and unity. Grace is the lived experience of the eternal reality that has always existed, revealing that everything necessary for life, fulfillment, and joy is already present. By embracing grace, the practitioner embodies the done deal. Recognition, trust, and alignment become habitual, producing a life of ease, harmony, and divine expression. Thought, word, and feeling converge into coherent action. Life reflects spirit, revealing abundance, peace, and wholeness in every interaction, circumstance, and moment. The done deal is here now and eternal. Living in grace is the ultimate manifestation of recognition complete, whole, and effortlessly aligned with God. Remember, your life reflects your inner state. Thought molds your reality, speech paints it, and feeling brings it to life. Stop struggling for what is already complete and step into recognition, alignment, and grace. The done deal is here flowing through you. Align your mind, speak your truth, and feel your wholeness, because the peace, abundance, and joy you've been seeking have always been yours.